Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to our session. Hope you're all enjoying day one of the amazing series Mania Forum. And this panel is ideal for day one because it's the age of rising costs as well as shrinking budgets. So the golden age optimism of the series industry is fading fast. But expectations for high production value have never been higher. Pressure's on for you. So how can these producers keep producing such premium content on tighter budgets? In other words, producing smarter, not smaller. So today, I'm very honored to introduce these incredible panelists. Allow me to introduce you to Samuel Kissous, founder and president of Pernel Media, and Sam Mcmillon, CEO of Quay Street Productions, Mike Benson, managing director at Clapperboard Studios. It's part of the TF1 Studios Group, and Rachel Eggebeen, the chief content officer at Amplify Pictures. And myself, I'm so looking forward to moderating the session. I'm Yuki from Nippon TV. So let's start with a warm-up question to all four panelists. Just short answers. In a nutshell, what kind of smart things can be done to create high-end drama with less budget? Samuel?
Yes, so for me, the first step is create production that can bring together international partners in a smart way. So from the outset, developing something that has international potential and bring partners early on. And then another interesting aspect that we can touch upon is maximizing the effect of tax credits, and that's a big part of the work as well.
Thank you. Sam?
We're sharing. The Sams are sharing. I think to Samuel's point, definitely maximizing tax credits, but taking that a step further and leaning into soft monies, regional funding and incentives in your local areas, and working really closely with the creatives to understand the challenges in the international market and the limits to budgets so that they're part of that journey with you.
Okay, thanks. Mike?
Yeah, I think the other aspect of it is about lowering the cost of production. So not just, we're not talking about low-cost production, it's lowering the cost and return on investment for the broadcaster. So how a production is structured is obviously key to that. Planning is key. I think, you know, we've always taken the path as a company that if we're 20 or 30% off of our budget, do we spend the next 6 months or a year trying to find that 20 or 30%? Or do we spend the next few months trying to find that saving within a production based on how we structure it, how we cast it? And I think that's increasingly important. So.
Smart. And Rachel?
Yeah, hi everyone. I have a pretty unique purview in that I worked for 20 years in the US, and then I worked 5 years with Netflix, building out the international group out of Europe, and was able to really see how things are done in many regions around the world, many markets, so from Sweden to Turkey in Europe and many others in between and in the US. And my kind of grand conclusion is that if you're really starting at the kind of source of things, that the shows I've seen that have been most successful across all the various markets are those where the producer and the writer were working very closely together from the minute you start till the very end of delivery, and that can take different forms. Of course, in the US, there's the showrunner model, and that works there because that's how the system works. That's often not the case, or it's very rarely the case in Europe, in the UK too, but so it can take many different forms. It might be one person, it might be the showrunner, but it might also be a writer working very closely with the producer and being able to see both sides of the coin. So yeah, that's where I look forward to my big takeaway.
Okay, great. Let's dive into each project. So first, let's view Pernel Media's project, Missed Call. Please play the video.
Promise me you'll answer when I call, day or night.
I always do, don't I?
I'll call you when we get there, yeah?
You're a godsend.
It's gonna be fine.
Leave it or don't.
Katie, Mum again. Yeah, I'm getting worried now. Can you call me back?
Listen to your gut.
Last week, my daughter went missing. She's here on a school exchange.
Teenage girls have some time, so...
They can be strong-willed at this age.
But she's not ignoring me. I know, I'm her mum. Have you seen her?
Oh, yes. Hard to miss her. Quite a live wire, your girl, her and her other friends.
Little Miss Perfect. You've got no idea what she really gets up to.
I think some of them know more than they're letting on. Teenage code of silence and all that.
There were some things that she felt that she couldn't talk to you about.
How well can any parent know their child?
Girlfriend been asking too many questions, has she?
She's really smart.
Do you really think something bad's happened?
I really do. But I'm going to find her, no matter what it takes.
I do hope you find your pretty girl.
It's this town. It's got dark secrets.
Don't get caught up with conspiracies. Leave the detective work to me.
You shouldn't have come here.
It's happened before.
The last thing that this town needs is you stirring things up again.
If I find out that any of your family did something to Katie, I swear to God I'll kill them.
Just tell me the truth.
Katie's alive. I can feel it. I just don't know how long for.
Thank you, Samuel. Fantastic. So you told me in the meeting that you're obsessed with making fast decisions without losing quality, or obsessed. So what production decisions have the biggest impact on cost?
Yeah, so if we're talking about, coming together with a finance plan, for instance, we were touching on the tax credit question, which is a very big topic. And I think the more budgets get constrained everywhere, the more these tax credits are becoming an important part of the financing plan. So I think all of us here, are constantly looking at how do you maximize, how is a pound or a dollar or a euro gonna work more, is by leveraging more of these tax credits by, the spend you're gonna do in the country where you're gonna shoot, for instance. So when we were preparing Missed Call, we looked at different potential tax credit systems.
So not only in one country, but in
exactly, multiple. And it's a big part of the work. And sometimes it's tricky to do it because at that point you might not even have the scripts ready yet. And you have to make those decisions on where are you going to shoot. So if you go to, typically if you go to a line producer, someone who's supposed to do the budget, they will need to get the scripts to make a full budget. So you have to make certain assumptions on how the budget is going to work, the amount of shooting days, the amount of people you're going to have on the cast. So all the main assumptions in the budget. So it's a bit of a theoretical budget, but you use it as a framework, and then you compare the tax credit systems in different countries. And sometimes, people will say, oh, you can raise more than 40% in Belgium, you can raise X amount in France, you can raise X amount in Ireland or X amount in Malta. So all of these countries, have competitive tax credit systems, and the UK has one as well. But then it's not just about the amount of money you raise, it's also about the cost of making the show in the country. So the only way to really make the decision is to make a budget. Whether you hire someone locally to work with you on the budget, or whether you partner up early on with potential production partners in such country. But in my view, you actually have to make the budget to properly realize what it's going to bring you in terms of tax credit and what it's going to cost you in terms of making the show in such or such location.
Don't do your homework the last day before summer ends, right? You make your budget?
It's several weeks of work. Like, you have
Right.
to really plan it and understand that it's a big amount of time.
And to apply for the tax credits, is it an easy process or is it detailed? Do you ever get declined?
each country has different rules. So again, the only way to really get to the bottom of it is by looking at potential countries and really do it as if you're in production and as if you're going to shoot there. So you really have to project yourself thinking, okay, let's imagine we're going to shoot, say, in Belgium. Well, what's the budget of shooting this in Belgium? What's the cost of producing this in Belgium? Talk with a Belgian production company, for instance. So in the case of Missed Call, we did look at different countries. We did the math. Of course, there's also an editorial aspect to it, like the story of Missed Call happens in France, so there was definitely an incentive to try and shoot in the south of France where the story is set. But if it comes to that, I think at the end of the day, if we couldn't have made it work in France, we might have changed the location of the story, and maybe we would have made the story happen in the north of France instead of the south of France, if we had decided, for instance, to shoot in Belgium.
Okay, similar in north of France to Belgium.
Exactly, yeah.
Would that affect your casting of the talent as well?
I mean, the location doesn't necessarily affect the cast, no.
Okay.
No,
because you cast French as well as English actors, and can you tell us about that?
Sure.
too?
So, I mean, Missed Call, I mean, we hear about stories and shows that are very local and travel universally, and of course, those series exist. But Missed Call is a bit of a different example, because in this case, we really came up with an idea that we knew could bring together a British broadcaster and a French broadcaster. So it was really engineered from day one to work like this. So obviously it's a story of a British mother who goes to France because she's looking for her daughter, and she's gonna meet with a French policewoman. So initially we knew that we would have a lead British cast, so Joanna Scanlan, BAFTA-winning actress, and we cast a very famous French actress, Claire Kem, to be the French policewoman. So having a strong British talent and a strong French talent was, of course, a great way to make it work between Channel 5 in the UK as our lead commissioner, and then TF1 in France as a pre-buy partner. And also understanding the sensibility of TF1, the type of show they like. You know, I say we do Bridgerton thrillers, which means we talk about very dark stories, people having dark secrets, but it all happens under the sun of north of France. It's all plunged in light and colors.
We love that.
So, you know, I'm saying it's a Bridgerton thriller. And actually, the director, Sherry Foxon, has directed Bridgerton, so it all made sense.
That's fantastic. And so is that an international co-production? Is that part of a solution too?
Yes, so of course co-production, you can put many things under this word. You have formal co-production. So for instance, we've produced The Au Pair 2 years ago, where we had an Irish co-production partner, which was an Irish production company, MK1 Studios. So that's a proper co-production. Missed Call is a cooperation, a co-financing. So again, Channel 5 is the lead commissioner. Obviously, ITV Studios, also a very important part of the puzzle as an international distributor, and TF1 as a pre-buy partner, and then the tax credits. So that's the puzzle of the financing.
Congratulations making it happen. We want to hear more from you, but we'll move on to Sam. So let's view Quay Street Productions project, Red King. Please play the video.
It's off the Welsh coast, and I'm going to be their police sergeant. Evening all. Oh God, I just said evening all. Welcome to St. Jury. It's good. Lots of challenges. I'm really excited.
Kyle be 14 now. He disappeared a year ago. Will you have him?
There is something wrong here. St. Jury's not a good place.
You're not a good fit here.
Asking about Kay pre-dot, she's pissing people off.
Sorry, not sorry that there's no time to worry about your feelings.
I'm trying to find out if a young boy was abducted, but you small-minded bigots won't help me.
Everyone hates me, don't they?
Ah, they'll come around.
You meant to say no, they don't.
My grandfather convinced the islanders to follow the true way.
The true way? That's just hocus pocus for the tourists.
You think you're this plucky little island, but the truth is, it is chaos here. It is barbaric.
Until now, the true way have covered their tracks. Now they are building to something.
Oh my God, why aren't you freaking out?
It's on my to-do list. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he was just a tourist thing.
This is the fall, I'll kill you.
Thank you, Sam.
Just to say, it came out about 2 years ago, so it's not quite coming soon.
One would never think that you're struggling for it. It doesn't look like the budget is shrinking. So tell me, how are you adapting to shrinking budgets, if that's the case?
Going back to what I was saying earlier in regards to soft monies, this is the reason I picked The Red King is I think it's a fine example of it was a UK TV commission, and we also, ITV Studios was our distribution partner. We are part of, Quay Street's part of the studios group. But we went to the Northeast and took advantage of soft monies there to be able to close financing. So between tax credit, soft monies, so the regional funding in the Northeast of the UK, distribution advance and UK license fee as to how we were able to fund and close financing on the show.
So what's the difference between the soft money and the tax incentive?
Okay, so soft money is government subsidies and production incentives, maybe another word, and normally comes in at a capped level in the UK. So you'll have different regional funders. So there's money in the Northeast. You can go to, so we have regions and nations. So on the nations, we can go to Creative Wales and access money. You're normally looking at about 3 to 5% of a budget. There's normally a cap on it, maybe $500,000. There's rumours of the cap lifting in some of the regional soft monies. But the tax credit is through the government stream, and to Samuel's point, is something which very much looking to try and increase. That is the motivation, I think, for most producers as to whether they stay in the UK or whether they go overseas, as to whether the amount of tax credit they can access. But when you're trying to stay within the UK, for us, and that's something that we're always trying to do, we're actually trying to stay as close to our home base, because we're in Manchester, as possible. We're always trying to see what can we do to maximise, to be able to close financing, and we never want to be in that situation where you're editorially green-lit, but you've not made it to financial green light. Oh. And obviously in the UK, that is a very, very big problem for many producers.
Does that happen?
So, yeah.
Does that often happen?
Thancfully, on my watch,
on your watch.
It hasn't, but it does. It does. I have very many friends in the UK where you do have that struggle between editorial and green light. And to what's Mike's part, I think the same way. It's like, you know, control what you can control. And if you cannot get more money, then go to the budget, you know, work with your creatives. You know, everybody wants to see their stories told on screen, and it doesn't mean that it diminishes quality.
Okay, that's a great point. And another approach that you told me is that you often use formats where the creative concept has already proven its strength, like Nippon TV sells our scripted formats like Mother, Woman, and the development process has already been proven, and you can just buy the script. Do you think scripted formats can help reduce the development risk? And even
I think it can. I think from a broadcaster, I think it can. If there is a proven track record, but obviously it has to go to the nuance of the territory.
Of course.
We have adapted formats, and we also adapt IP, existing IP. So we adapt the Harlan Coben books for Netflix, which Rachel will know very, very well from her days, and we take American stories, put them into the UK, and we've had a lot of success with that. So we definitely, where there is a proven track record, we definitely lean into it. I think whatever you can do as a producer to ensure that your buyer feels that they have de-risked as much as possible is something that we definitely lean into.
So when you adapted the scripted format, you can use the budget that you would normally use for development. What did you use that for?
Oh no, there's still a development process because we took an Israeli format when Quay Street was first set up called Significant Other, and it was a comedy. So there will still be that moment in time where you have to adapt, and you may well take scripts, but you have to adapt them for your territory. So there will still be a development process. But what you are able to do is go to a broadcaster and say, okay, this has worked in another territory or territories, and be able to show that to help you move to an editorial green light.
It's interesting that you've done both.
Yeah. We'll try everything.
We'll try everything. Anything to get it made. Great. Thank you, Sam. So, Mike, let's go to you. Let's view the video from Clapperboard Studios, Girl Taken.
Hello, police. What's your emergency?
I need your help. I can't find my daughter.
When did you see her last?
Yesterday.
Girl! The last one out, girl left behind, you know.
No one knows where she is.
This is a message from my daughter.
Lily,
We won't give up until we find you.
We just have to keep going like she's gonna walk through that door.
Must be going through hell. She'll be there. We're gonna find her.
Thanks, Mr. Handsome.
Mr. Handsome.
Mr. Handsome.
I heard that. This is going to be good. You're going to learn to be good.
I wanna go home.
This is home. Going to behave now, baby doll.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike.
I was going to say another missing child drama.
This wasn't planned.
The key to low-cost drama is missing children, and Jill Halfpenny is in 2 of those shows. That's the key.
Well, okay, you told me that you think it's time for a new reality for producing drama, and you have 12 projects all greenlit this year. Amazing. So in your experience, what are the production choices that actually improve efficiency without compromising creativity?
Yeah. I mean, I think to your first point, it's interesting. 10 years ago, we'd never made a drama, so I come from a non-scripted background.
Oh.
That frames a lot of the approach of the company. I felt coming into drama, for a long time, drama was overfunded. I thought budgets had swelled beyond the reality. I felt you could still make a really brilliant drama with a great cast on a low budget. And that's been key to our approach. I think it starts with your attitude to risk. I think on a lower cost model, whatever the tariff, lower cost can be 8 million per ep. It can be 700,000 per ep. But your chances, if you overspend on that, you can wipe out your margin in one fell swoop. So you have to be open to taking that risk. The other side of risk is distribution. Distribution are a key part of the model. I think as a business, we spend a lot of time trying to understand the distribution market, trying to understand the economics of it. I see distributors taking a lot of risk as well. You know, under the percentage that distributors are putting in is going up and up. You know, I thought it was interesting, your point, Samuel, about building a show from location, building a show from tax credit, build a show from a distribution brief. You know, we've all seen a lot of headlines of broadcasters commissioning shows and they can't get the finance in place. Well, I think broadcasters are up for reverse engineering. Go into them with concepts that you know you can get the distribution finance on. So the starting point is really important. I think then when you're actually producing it, I mean, there's a lot you can do to save that 20 or 30%. I think casting, obviously we were lucky enough to have Alfie in that show. We've just done a Channel 4 drama with Simon Pegg. And we were able to get that level of talent by bringing down the time that we needed them. For Simon, he'll be all over the posters. We filmed him out in a week.
A week?
And that week was probably, I don't know, a month of trying to get the schedule to work. But that's what I mean. If the focus is on that, the other thing that's really important is locations on lower costs. We've just been filming a drama where we have a single location that serves as 5 locations. It serves as a production office. So if the focus becomes on things like that, it's entirely possible to bring down the cost of production. And the thing that makes me really hopeful is I think more and more producers are adopting this model. More and more broadcasters are adopting that model. And when that happens, and it is happening, there'll be more and more production. You know, I see a future where there's more production than there's ever been. I think it's a really hopeful. There'll have to be compromises, but I think drama will find its financial level. And I think there's, you know, through compromises, you can still deliver ratings, quality, casting. I think it's a really positive place to be, not without its challenges. Talking about tax credits are not this unicorn. There is risk to that. We've had tax credits where they've come in 2 years later. So we've had to cash flow that. So it's not this kind of silver bullet. There is risk involved in it. We've always taken the approach, we'd rather be in production. Let's take that risk. Hopefully, if we have enough production, there's something of a spread bet there. So if something overspends, we can manage it. But I think there's massive opportunity within that.
And you also talked about in the editing, you make sure that you don't shoot extra scenes. We don't have the luxury anymore that like we did a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I have worked with directors who film the same scene from the same angle about 30 times. And I just don't think that's the reality. I mean, it's really important on a lower cost model that you get the right director and the right DOP. You need people who can work at speed, page count without losing quality. You know, often we'll look directors who've done some really interesting stuff but have worked originally in continuing drama. I've got so much respect for continuing drama and soap. When we started down this path, we were told it'll just look like a soap. I was like, soaps get 4 or 5 million. You'd kill for soap ratings. But they're also a great breeding ground for writers, for producers, for directors. So I have so much respect for that grounding, and that's often what we'll look for in TV, especially when the budget is especially tight.
Is it based because you came from an unscripted background? You know, about this totally different procedure.
Yeah, I mean, when I first went on a drama set, I went, who the hell are all these people? You know, it's such a different beast. They're big tankers. Even the lower cost things are big tankers. So, yeah, it's key to get your people right. You know, the HODs that we choose. You could spend a lot of time thinking about what you don't have, but actually with teamwork, you know, and Samuel knows having produced for Channel 5, the quality of Channel 5's output and the teams that we're putting together is down to the people on the ground, their passion for storytelling, their creativity in terms of protecting production value. And you can do something that punches way above its weight, and to me, that's an exciting thing.
So you pick your team wisely. You pick the people who can get and change the system.
Completely. I mean, I often think at events like this, and when we go to Edinburgh, there's all like people who run the companies and execs,
right.
But it's the workforce on the ground that are doing the hard work. Exactly. You know, like the freelance industry is really challenging, and the more we can do to provide more jobs. The UK needs to reframe how it approaches tax credit. It really does. But it's the freelancers on the ground that are making these shows and making the show special. You know, we agree to budgets and then they have to deliver. But, you know, there's some fantastic freelancers in the UK and we're lucky enough to work with them.
Right, but you're still responsible for the passion of the freelancers. I mean, they cannot sustain if they don't get paid. So the more quicker you do the production, the more efficient you do it. In the long run, it helps the freelancers too, right?
Completely, and we work with freelancers again and again. I mean, one of my frustrations, we film a lot abroad, so 90% of what we've done is in Basque, in Ireland, in Malta, and we work with freelancers there again and again. And one of my frustrations about the UK is I'd love to do more in the UK. You know, I'd love to, I come from the north, I mean, talking about filming up north, I'd love to do more in the north of England, but the tax credit is not structured in such a way that we can apply for it, a lot of our Channel 5 output anyway. So yeah, but tax credit's obviously an important part of it.
Thank you. Moving on to Rachel. So Amplify Pictures logo, please. So before we start, could you share your passion, Amplify Pictures' passion for creating stories?
Sure. I was regretting that our comedy trailer wasn't ready to show you guys today, just for a little bit of a laugh. But so yeah, Amplify Pictures is a pretty unique company in that we are really forging a path in independent financing in television. So similar to the independent film model, which has existed, you know, for a long time in the film space. We would like to apply that more to the TV space, where you are just going through, basically about equity financing and going and making a series. So obviously containing the budget and being super smart about where you shoot and how you shoot and what you shoot is of utmost importance if you're, putting the money out there yourself. And I think a probably good place for me to fill in from these other brilliant panelists here is around just kind of getting back to the source, like where you begin to build an idea and who you begin to build it with. And that is the kind of key thing I'm always keeping in mind is how you're telling your story, what story you're telling, and then who you're choosing to tell that with. And on the kind of what and how front, I think something that's often, I see it's often forgotten is that television is really a medium to tell stories about characters. And there's been such a push, for like speed and plot and pace and, how you kind of chew through story. But I think what audiences, what they want are super compelling characters. They want to engage, they want to fall in love with people whose stories they're interested in. And sometimes, and yes, you do need these days to kind of drop an audience into a story quickly. You need them to understand what that story is right away. Hopefully they can understand what that story is within the first, 2 to 5 minutes of the show. But I also think that there's kind of an we've kind of overcompensated and kind of sometimes forget just the simplest thing, which is just digging into character. And sometimes those character scenes, I just watched the latest season of Love Story, not that that is an example of a low budget show, but the latest episode, there's still one more to go. This is the JFK Carolyn Bessette story. I have nothing to do with it, but just as a fan and a viewer, watched the latest episode, and there was a 20-minute scene in an apartment with two characters, and they've done their work of like, you've fallen in love with these characters. You can spend 20 minutes in one scene in what is essentially a bottle episode in this apartment. And so just that as like a reminder, character. And then the kind of who you're telling your story with, that idea I touched on earlier around writers who can think like producers who want to let writers into the room in that way. And again, it doesn't always work. It's, there's many great shows that are made not in this model, but where, writers can, if you're a writer in this room, like where you can begin to educate yourself on how the words you write on the page actually translate to the screen. And if you're a producer in this room, are you helping build that like next generation of writers to understand how their words are, getting onto the screen? So I think that collaboration is super important. We're working with a team right now, our first independently financed comedy that we're doing out of the US, and they're a comedy troupe. They had made a pilot that we found on YouTube, and now we're making 5 more episodes of it independently. And they are the dream team because because they had been forced to do things at such a low budget when they made it and financed it themselves for YouTube, that they have so much precision in how they write. They have so much, they're looking ahead at everything that they're doing in terms of both how it can be creatively excellent, but also how it can make sense to produce. And that kind of melding of those two things together, kind of from inception, is making the process of working with them like one of the best we've had, or I've had.
Wonderful. Well, if the development stage takes a long time, would that not affect the costs? Working with the writers, making sure the characters are well.
I mean, I guess I think actually that development phase is so important in containing the cost ultimately, right? I think if you spend the time kind of in those early stages of inception into the writing of the scripts, you can actually...
You wouldn't cut that time. You would definitely not.
I think it's a really important time. I mean, there's a huge variety. It can take, there's such a wide variety of time that it can take. But of course you want to be, keeping that wheel of development turning while you're also producing other shows. Those are two very important aspects of the business to keep going at the same time.
Sam?
Rachel, do you know who you're making it for? So you are self-financing this, which I find fascinating. Do you have a buyer in mind?
I mean, there are buyers that we would like to sell it to ultimately, yes. So this is a U.S. comedy. It's a very...
So how do you develop when you don't know who the buyer is? That's fascinating.
Yes.
Sorry, okay,
No, it is a really interesting, I think, like, development that can happen in our business, right, is this idea of creating a marketplace for independently financed television. There are very few shows that I think can fit in that model. You have to be very choosy about what you would choose to do. In our case, Joe, my partner, comes from Amazon. He was head of Amazon Studios. I was working at Netflix, so we both can put our buyer hats on, which I think does help, right? We can see things from that perspective. I think also it's going to be testing. We're gonna have some successes and we're gonna have some failures, and hopefully have enough runway to have both of those things hand in hand. But the idea is like, if you believe in something enough to put your own financing into it, like, hopefully you've checked the boxes of what makes sense also for a buyer, and it's not kind of going the like art house route of, oh, this is my passion project, like it would be really difficult to finance this through the traditional means. It's really choosing the projects that would sell. They have the talent in front of and behind the camera that makes sense for a buyer. You could go in and sell it.
Yes, you believe in it commercially as much as you believe in it creatively.
Yes, that's a very important part of it.
So Sam, you've never done it in that process.
No.
Not many people have.
No, it's so unique, and I know that there's only a few that I've come across at cases. So I am fascinated to see, because I agree with you. I guess it's betting on yourself if you're standing behind it. I guess it isn't a model which is kind of common, really. So I think it's I think we're all here wanting new creative business models. So it is fascinating what you're doing.
Do you want to talk more about how you get that done?
Well, next year I'll come back and I'll let you know how they've gone.
Yeah, tell us more.
But yeah, it's really building a coalition of other financiers also who want to do this alongside of us. In the case of we're doing 2 comedies this year. We're splitting that with a partner. They're very contained budgets. Our goal is to do a drama that we shoot in Europe, an English language drama. So we're developing a couple of ideas now that we hope to those are just, it's a bigger amount of money you need to raise. And again, if we can offset the risk through pre-sales or other, buyers coming in early, of course we'll do that. But if we feel like the right way to make the show, or if we have the right partners in place, like, it's just a different way to try to make it. And I think the flip side of it too is, on the buying side, there needs to be openness and a pathway to that, which I do think there is. Having been on the buying side, I feel like, yes, if something walked in the door and it was 75% complete and I could still get in there and put my fingerprints on it in post, that would be, there's often holes in people's programming slates, no matter how many projects they have. It's going to be a timing thing, and it's going to be a quality thing too. Have you made a show that is great? It's going to take that. But at the end of the day, if you have 5-6 episodes of something, you have something you can monetize versus just going into development with a buyer. Your percentage chances of ultimately monetizing that development is lower. Whereas if you go and just make a show, there's some way to hopefully make some money back off of it. Worst case scenario is self-distribution models. Best case scenario, you're selling to a streamer in a worldwide deal and everybody's winning.
Mike, that's a little bit different from your approach. What did you think?
I think it's ballsy. I like it. No, why not? Why not? I mean, I think I've seen a few programs that have been structured in that way. And I think it's really bold. And I think if you get the creative right, you can create that market. So again, it comes down to risk, right? There's risk involved in that, but you get absolutely nowhere without taking risk currently in the industry. So I think it's a positive thing.
Thanks, Mike. Samuel.
No, I just wanted to touch on what Mike said as well about the fact that I think mentalities are evolving. So, you know, there's a lot of talk about budget shrinking, doomsday, creator economy, vertical drama, YouTube, the world is collapsing. Okay, but actually, actually, mentalities are evolving, and I see more and more opportunities for broadcasters to work together. So, as we're seeing, the Fox at Channel 5 are very open-minded. The fact that TF1 came on board, a British series, is a very interesting sign of changing times. And I think there are more and more opportunities out there. So, you know, I think if there's something I wanted to share with the room is, you know, I think the doors are opening more and more for cooperations between broadcasters in different countries. And so producers from different countries should also, you know, get in touch and try and make things happen.
Right.
So I think, you know, that would be my own little take.
Thank you. What's the takeaway from this session, Sam?
I think given we're in an international market which is challenged, it's not collapsing, as you say, Samuel, but it's definitely challenging. Control what you can control.
Control what you can control. And do your homework early, the budget. Mike, thanks.
I think the theme of what I think we've all talked about is there is as much creativity that needs to go into the financing of the show as there is into the editorial, now more so than ever. And part of that are things that we've touched upon: understand the different tax credits, tax rebates, understand the distribution market. And a lot of companies are doing this already, but if not, that can be the key to really getting the green light on your show.
Thanks. Rachel again?
Yeah, I like to think of myself and Amplify as water a bit, that, you know, as rocks or roadblocks kind of come into the way, it's like, how do you get around them? Where do you go? How do you see opportunity? How do you see white space and find your way there?
Thank you. Such interesting. And Sam, you have an announcement at the very end. Can we show Pernel Media's slide?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, so we will talk tomorrow. We have a session at 4:30 p.m. We are excited because we have several stars of the show that are going to come in here to lead to Series Mania. So please join us tomorrow for the 4:30 p.m. session in room 3.1. We'll talk more about how we made it work with Channel 5, how we made it work with TF1, what was the role of ITV Studios, and also the experience of the cast working as, you know, half a French cast, half a British cast. How did they feel about that, and how did they make it work themselves? Yes, so hopefully everybody can join.
Well, thank you so much for sharing such valuable insights and for free, based on all your hard work and experience in doing your homework. So thank you for today's session. I hope everybody learned something today. Thank you.